Okay, so today we're going to be going over line 70 in your Standard of Excellence Red Book. This is on page 17 and it is called Down in the Valley. So first thing we're going to look at is the very beginning of the line. We have the clef. So most of us are probably looking at the treble clef, which looks like this weird complicated G. The rest of us are probably looking at or should be looking at a bass clef, which means that we are playing a lower pitched instrument, such as the trombone or the tuba. After we have the clef sign, we have the key signature. Now, I'm gonna preface this with, if you are a saxophone player like myself, you probably don't have anything here. That means everything you play is natural. It's our favorite key signature. It's super easy to play in. But if you're anyone that's not a saxophone player, you are probably seeing a slew of flats right there. So, the common response whenever I ask middle schoolers is what's in the key signature is a flat, but we have to be specific. So if I'm looking at what I wrote on the board, the flat sign is on the third line, meaning it is on the B line. So all of our flats here are gonna be B flat. Now, if you play flute, French horn, mallets, trombone, or I said percussion already, mallets, or any other instrument, you're probably seeing more than one flat. A lot of you are probably seeing up to 3 flats. So let's go through and think about what those flats are going to be on yours. So flute players are definitely going to have a B flat, E flat, and an A flat. If you play horn, you just have a B flat and an E flat. If you are a trombone player, you also have that A flat. Just remember that everything is shifted down in the bass clef. This means that all of the notes in the line are going to be flat, which is great because most of us haven't learned notes like E natural or B natural. So that's just good information to have. After we have the key signature, we then have our time signature. So we are in 3/4, which means that there are 3 beats in a measure and the quarter note gets the beat. So we're going to take a second and just count to 3. Do that with me now. Start tapping your foot, maybe even move your arms with me because we're going to go down, out, up, down, out, up. Now replace those syllables with 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. The next thing that we're going to notice that we have is a half note with this weird dot next to it. And there's the bell. So a half note by itself gets 2 beats. And the dot adds half of the previous note's value. So if a half note gets 2 beats, and we are dividing that in half, that means this gets 1 beat. So 2 plus 1 equals 3. Dotted half notes are just an easier way of writing a half note tied to a quarter note. It's the same thing, just written a little bit differently. Now, later on in line 70, we're going to see a half note tied to, or a dotted half note tied to a half note, which means that we're going to be holding that note out for a total of how many beats? We have 3 beats plus 2 for a total of 5 beats. So we have to make sure that we're counting all the way out, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, rest. But, holding it out all as one. So 1. So that's going to take some brain power. In your brain, if you need to think about counting to 5, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, while holding out that note, that's perfectly fine too. So now that we've gone over our key signature and established how long dotted half notes are, and the dotted half note tied to another half note, we're going to count and finger the first line. All right, let's go ahead and establish tapping our feet. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, rest. So holding out a note for that long is really tricky. I completely understand. So if you have to go through and you have to count that multiple times, pause the video or rewind the video, or if you even have to take the instrument off your face and just hold out the note and go 1 while the metronome is going and kind of move your fingers, that's perfectly acceptable too. Whatever is working. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to play the first line. Feel free to count and finger or play along or do whatever you need to. Say the note names. 1, 2, 3, line 70. Here we... So yeah, that's quite a while to hold out a note. Now, if we're looking at the first 6 measures, which we just played, and we're looking at the last 6 measures, what's the similarity? What's the thing that is the same? Very good, it's the rhythm. So now we do have some note differences. So go through really quickly, maybe use your finger and just find the notes that are different. Maybe even put your fingers with that. Okay, well now that I know that the notes are different but the rhythm is the same, I'm going to try playing through the second line of this. And turn on my metronome. Let's tap our feet. If you want to count and finger, that's fine. If you want to play along, that's also fine. Do what works. 1, 2, 3, 1. Ready. Okay. So now that we've played both sections of the music, we're going to try putting it all together. Remember, take the breath marks if you need them. And also, remember, the quarter note rests are not optional. That is a great time to get in some breath. So I'm going to put on the metronome, and we are going to go all the way through Down in the Valley. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready. All right, that was line 70, Down in the Valley.